Welcome back to today's Explainer, designed specifically for all you focused learners out there. I am so excited to be with you today because we're tackling one of the most legendary, talked about subjects of the last century. We are going to directly dissect our source material to uncover the actual truth behind a massive global phenomenon. We're talking, of course, about the Bermuda Triangle. So, I want you to go ahead and clear away any distractions. We're going to systematically break down what's myth, what's reality, and most importantly, exactly how this whole story got so out of hand. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to just imagine for a second a specific place out in the open ocean where giant ships and massive airplanes just vanish into thin air. That's the fundamental premise of this whole legend. Is the Bermuda Triangle really cursed? I mean, that's the exact question that has absolutely terrified sailors, pilots, and honestly, the general public for decades. The stakes here, at least in our popular imagination, are incredibly high. It's pitched as this supernatural black hole. But to really get what's going on, we need to look at the cold, hard facts laid out in our source. Part 1. The Cursed Ocean Area and Where Myths Begin. Let's firmly establish the actual boundaries of the triangle. We're looking at an oceanic region located strictly between Bermuda, Florida, and Puerto Rico. So this isn't just some abstract concept, right? It's a specific, measurable patch of the Atlantic Ocean. And as our source material notes, this specific region has been infamous for decades. For a really long time, stories have claimed that ships entered this exact geographical area and were literally never seen again. No wreckage, no survivors, just gone. That is the geographic and historical foundation we're working with here. And this contrast brilliantly illustrates the massive gap between myth and actual proof. On one hand, you've got the legend, vessels mysteriously entering and vanishing into thin air. But the reality, well, it's quite different. Scientists state very clearly in our source data that there is absolutely no solid evidence that this area is any more dangerous than other busy parts of the ocean. And I really want to emphasize that word busy. This is a heavily trafficked part of the world. Statistically speaking, when you have a massive volume of ships and planes moving through an area, you're inevitably going to have a certain number of accidents. So the reality actually grounds us in statistics rather than superstition. Section 2. Science explains the disappearances, the real culprits. Our source material gives us a very clear, scientifically grounded list of what's actually happening out there. These are the real culprits behind so many of these tragic incidents. We've got storms. We've got powerful, totally unpredictable waves. We have simple human error in the form of navigation mistakes. And of course, mechanical problems. Look, when you're out in the middle of the deep ocean, a sudden mechanical failure or a miscalculation in navigation isn't some supernatural event, but it can absolutely be a fatal one. These are completely non-magical, everyday risks of oceanic travel. But there's another really fascinating possibility at play here regarding the weather. The Bermuda Triangle is physically located in a part of the world where tropical storms can become extremely powerful, and they can do it very quickly. We are talking about sudden shifts in weather that can literally transform calm seas into incredibly dangerous ocean conditions in just a remarkably short amount of time. If a ship or a plane gets caught in one of these sudden violent weather shifts, the results can be absolutely catastrophic. So it's not a curse, it's just highly volatile, extreme weather. And this brings us to an absolutely pivotal question for today's explainer. If science can easily explain these tragedies through weather, waves, and mechanical failure, why did this mystery become so globally famous? Part 3. Why the stories grew. The media escalation. Now, this is where the source material gets incredibly fascinating because it maps out the actual creation of a myth. This process is exactly how the stories grew through a step-by-step media escalation. First, you have newspapers reporting on a single isolated disappearance. It's a tragedy for sure, and it's news. But then, step 2, television programs get a hold of it, and they dramatize the events, adding spooky music and wild speculation just to boost ratings. Finally, step 3, entire books are written that group several completely unrelated incidents together, turning them into one enormous, interconnected mystery. The media basically systematically took individual, totally explainable tragedies and stitched them together into this massive super-narrative. So, over time, the stories became progressively more dramatic. Our source points out that while the actual truth is much less supernatural, this process of myth-making is honestly way more fascinating. The explosive growth of the Bermuda Triangle stories was really driven by an escalating feedback loop of dramatization. Books, newspapers, and TV shows literally turned explainable tragedies into a supernatural sensation, mostly because, frankly, mysterious curses sell a whole lot better than mundane mechanical failures. The entire focus of our explainer today really hinges on this exact point. The phenomenon isn't the ocean itself. The real phenomenon is the storytelling.
Section 4. The Anatomy of a Legend. The Ultimate Takeaway.
So the crucial point is captured beautifully in a quote right from our source text. Sometimes the greatest mystery isn't what happened, but how the story became a legend. The Bermuda Triangle actually teaches us something incredibly important about human nature and the media we consume every single day. When we finally peel back the layers of sensationalism, we find out that the true mystery was never sitting at the bottom of the ocean. The real mystery is how easily a collection of normal, albeit really tragic, maritime accidents were spun into a globally recognized curse, just through the sheer power of dramatic media retelling. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. What other famous mysteries out there are really just great storytelling? If the legendary Bermuda Triangle, literally one of the most famous supernatural hotspots in human history, can be completely explained by weather patterns and media exaggeration, it really makes you wonder about all the other myths we just blindly accept as fact. I challenge you to take this critical lens, this structured way of looking at evidence versus legend, and apply it to the very next great mystery you hear about. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep asking those great questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.